right, guys, we are halfway through the football season. 6-0 start. Great time to be an Aggie. But to stop and reflect on everything, I brought on, once again, Jaxson Callaway of On3 Sports. You might know him as Aggies Today. Does great stuff. I'm sure you've heard of him. But if not, Jaxson, tell him what you're up to these days and maybe tell him how much more fun it is to cover this team when you get to a 6-0 start on a football season.
Yeah, I'm over at On3, mainly covering recruiting for football, but we dive into baseball, basketball, all that stuff. But recruiting, especially, is fun at this time of year. But we're gonna try to avoid that and talk more about the team, just because it's been so much fun to watch them play to this point.
Yeah, it's been a great time, man. I mean, you've had some great games, a great start to SEC play. We had the big Notre Dame game. We all lost our mind in that one. But let's start with some breaking news, kind of the updates on Le'Veon Moss. You're one of the first to break the news that it's a significant injury, but he's expected to return this season. That was said by Mike Elko in his Monday press conference today. So obviously, we all wish the best for Le'Veon. I think he's really become a beloved Aggie. Just his one-liners, his authenticity, and the way he plays the game. Just everyone really likes the guy. So first of all, we wish the best for him. But I'm going to ask you a little bit about the team here because you have a really healthy running back room behind him. You have a good offensive line. So maybe what are your expectations about life without Le'Veon for these next few weeks, and maybe some of the ways this team can account for that loss and maybe play around that, and some players you expect to step up?
Yeah, I think looking back even to last year when you kind of lost Le'Veon, I think at that point you didn't have as strong a running back room as you have now. And I think seeing Rueben Owens over the last few weeks, and maybe this may just be me, and I think you may share the same opinion, but I think Rueben Owens has been a really bright spot for this team. His development's been fun to watch. I think that there's still some things you want to work on with him. But I think really, like, one thing I was talking to a friend about today is that I think last year when you lost Le'Veon, he was the entire offense, and that's not the case anymore. Um, and while the schedule's going to get harder, you're going to face some really good teams on the road. I think that the loss of Le'Veon, especially when you get him back later in the season, it could prepare this team a little bit better to make a deep run. And obviously, the immediate impact of losing him will hurt. But I think being able to kind of shift and kind of shape shift more than anything to a team with Le'Veon Moss, who was playing as good as anybody in the conference at the running back position,
Mm-hmm.
to a team where you still have elite receivers. You have a really good running back room that's come on strong. I think I loved what Jamari Mora has showed to this point. EJ Smith has looked good. Rueben Owens, obviously, as we just talked about, has looked good as well. I'm very curious to see what they do. Maybe if they do a little bit of an identity switch, I think that you have to get Marcel more involved on the ground.
Yep.
But it's going to be interesting to watch, but I think they're going to be a better team for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this time last year, of course, you didn't have Ruben. And in this case, I mean, you do. And you didn't have kind of those freshman floor raisers like a Jamarian Morrow can be. I mean, we've seen this team go to him before you even had any kind of injuries in this room. And he's been a guy that's been worth playing. So that's going to help so much. And last year, obviously, no KC, no Craver. Like you said, that's a big deal. And quite frankly, your quarterback's just further along now, and you're further along into an offensive system. And I think one of the big questions will be, how does A&M attack short yard situations where Moss is just a machine? The leg drive is insane. I mean, blocking is really good, but it doesn't even have to be perfect for Le'Veon Moss in short yard situations because he's that kind of a player. But I think this team's in a good place to kind of work around that, kind of shapeshift, as you said. Because I think we saw that last game. It took him a while to adjust, but I think in that last kind of game-defining 8-minute drive to just take the game, you saw this team go to some interesting plays and different kinds of things to get those must-convert plays under their belts, like a KC end around, like a KC bubble screen, that kind of a thing. And I think we're in a good place to kind of build. And you're right. Maybe this team finds some things they wouldn't have found if they just have this Le'Veon Moss beast that they can just lean on for these moments. But we'll get back in this offense in a little bit. I kind of want to start overall just, we're 6 games in. If you could put like a defining identity or defining trait to this team, something overarching, what do you think the personality of this team is? What would you say like their number one attribute that has gotten them to this point is as a team?
I think right now, and it may feel different because I think even last year, as a physical team, we ran the ball a lot overall. But I think even just bringing in the defense as well, I feel like, and it may feel more or less so, but I really do think that they are a more tough and resilient team overall than they were last year. The defense can go and get after anybody right now. They've done a really good job holding some really good running backs to their season worst totals.
Yeah.
And the offense has just continued, especially up front, to just power teams through. I mean, they wear out defenses. And I think even too, and I think we're about to talk about the defense, but the defensive line has been a strength, which is something I don't think many people expected.
Yeah.
And they've been incredible. I think this really is a tougher team than last year, and they've shown resiliency. When things aren't going the right way, they don't give up. You really see them take it into another notch and really pull away in some of these close games.
Yeah, you got to give a shout out to Tommy Moffitt because they're clearly the fresher team in the fourth. The last two games have kind of been capitalized by these late game surges by the offensive line, by the defensive line. You can look at State or Florida. I mean, we just talked about the 8-minute drive versus Florida. You kind of just took over the game late versus State, and that running game really took over late. And you're right. This team just finds a way. This team late in games just seems to play their best football. And when these games are a little bit more competitive and closer, like we anticipate they will over the weeks on these road games, that's in your back pocket. And that is such a good overarching defining trait for your team. But we got to lock in on this defense, man. I mean, you said we've done well against every running back. We have, besides the first one. You know, it took us some time to get our footing. It took us at least a half and a play to find our footing in this run game. But since that moment, or really since that game, even the Notre Dame game had some good moments. It wasn't perfect, but since then especially, it's on another level. So first of all, what's changed in your mind? What's kind of been the biggest difference in this defense from maybe a couple of mistakes early in the season to now where it seems like we might have the best unit in the conference?
Yeah, I think even like you said early on, it looked like this defense was going to be. I don't know exactly how you describe it, but it just wasn't a defense that you thought could lead you to this point of 6-0.
Yeah.
But I think really looking back to the Notre Dame game, I feel like the confidence that they gained through that game launched them forward to where they are now. I think you obviously found a guy. Damian Sanford's been incredible. You wouldn't have found him, and it's very similar to what we were saying about Le'Veon Moss, is where Scooby Williams goes down. They have to create a new identity because a major contributor on that side of the ball was hurt. And you bring in a guy who's ready to play, and now you really can't play without him.
Yeah.
I mean, they've completely adjusted. I think the confidence is on another level with this team right now.
Yeah, 100%. And we even saw them find ways to play all three. Elko talked about this. We saw a couple drives where it was Scooby, Sanford, and York on the field at the same time. And there's a really good running team coming up in Missouri that you might want to equip that again. And there's a couple of linebackers that can cover some ground because Sanford's looking real fast right now, looking real confident. And that's what Scooby brings, but he just has to work himself back into that playing form. But you mentioned Sanford. We all know about Cassius Howell, and he's taken over the world right now. We know about Torian York. Who are a couple of names that have also risen up this year in your mind, defensively?
I mean, when you really look at it, I think, especially I need to go back and look at this Florida game because I haven't had the opportunity to yet. Dayon Hayes is a guy that we kind of heard a lot about, and I know there's a lot of love for that guy.
Yeah.
But even in the offseason, he was a guy that had kind of dealt with some injuries in his past, but was really, really good, especially in the pass game.
Yeah. We've
seen that this year. It looks like he is feeling very healthy, and he's starting to get into a groove, get comfortable. He's been really good for the Aggies, especially in crucial moments. Last play of the Auburn game, we saw it against Florida. He is continuing to flash, and he's that guy opposite of Cassius Howell that you wanted because you weren't sure what you were going to get opposite of Howell, whether it be Ryland Kennedy, TJ Searcy, Dayon Hayes. You're getting a guy that while you won't rely on him at any point, they can go and make game-changing plays at any point in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was wondering who else would step up. We were all kind of wondering because Howell, I mean, he does enough to impact the game. Obviously, he just requires so much attention because he can do so much individually. But when you bring a player like that to the other side, you bring in a Tyler Onyedem in the middle, guys that can get penetration. Regis does everything right now. He was the defensive player of the game, I think, in Elko's eyes. It's really, really beneficial. And I think a couple other standouts that are just kind of rising to the occasion. One that we anticipate, I think you and I might have talked about this at some point, but Marcus Radcliffe, as advertised, been so solid. You got a guy like Dalton Brooks. I think he's playing his best football lately, these last couple of games, especially supporting the run. And this is with Bryce Anderson going down. I mean, we're seeing guys rise up as players have fallen off. I mean, it was Scooby getting hurt, Bryce getting hurt, and these players have risen up. These guys are getting healthy. So the depth of this defense is looking really good. I don't know if you want to speak on the depth really quick and maybe some guys that you can see helping us off the bench, because I think Hayes is a guy that's playing his best football these last couple of games. Who are some other risers you think that could support this defense in those rotational roles? Maybe a couple other little names on the side there.
Yeah, I think one guy that has also stood out to me, and we haven't seen him nearly as much, I don't think, but Jordan Shaw, since getting healthy, has also made some good plays. I've liked him, the transfer from Washington. And while he's maybe not a depth guy as well, I think DJ Hicks
Yeah.
He's continued to play really good football, and it may not show in the stat sheet, but he's really been able to be that interior guy that's kind of stepped up to what you wanted him to be,
Yeah.
alongside an Albert Regis, who may not get to the quarterback a ton.
Yeah, and those guys you mentioned, you say he's not a depth piece. He does come off the bench. These are guys that are coming in the second wave that can bring you, plus play. So you're getting it from all three levels on defense. This defense is in a really great spot. They have to go take that on the road now, but they say defense travels, and that's what makes this super exciting right now. But the offense, I think we had a certain level of hope and maybe expectations on the year with what you had coming in. I think certain players have risen to the occasion and above when you're looking at this receiver group, looking at the O-line being as advertised. But with this offense, has anything surprised you this year?
I think the one thing for me that stood out the most is I think we all knew the receiver core had a lot more talent than we previously have had. And while Mario Craver coming in, I knew was a really good player. I think more than just how he's played to this point, especially statistically, who is leading the conference in receiving yards, he's been a lot better after the catch than I expected.
Yeah.
And the receiver group as a whole, I think that there's still a little bit to grow. I think Ashton Thoroman is still a guy that hasn't had the opportunity. I think he's been open, and I think the confidence there with him is growing again. But I think at the beginning part of the season, he had a few drops. But I think even looking at Casey Concepcion, there's been a lot of missed opportunities. But he's so good that he's being doubled every game. I think he's being glossed over by everybody else.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a game here pretty soon where they find out this is I think Casey Concepcion may be the most talented player on this offense.
Yeah.
But we just haven't seen it yet because he's being targeted. But I think once they start to adjust a little bit, I think he's going to have one of these games here in the next few weeks that really breaks out.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And obviously Craver, kind of to our surprise, I think we thought it was going to be KC 1A and then Craver 1B. Craver has the stats right now, but I think most of us Aggies realize what KC can be and just the level of route running that he brings. Elko's talked about his strength as a ball carrier. We saw that in that big touchdown against Mississippi State. I think there's a lot of meat on the bone still left in this receiver room that has already achieved maybe more than we even expected. And that, I agree, that probably is the biggest surprise, even with the relative expectations we had for that group going into the year. But I want to go focus in on Reed for a second here because I think Reed has brought us a lot of really good stuff, especially intangibly, especially as a leader. He got us out of a couple of binds last game. There were a couple of, escapes he had in the pocket that avoided some big sacks. He uses those legs in that regard. To your point earlier, we haven't gotten him super involved in the running game just yet. But what have you seen from Reed? Are you seeing progress? And where do you think he can go the rest of this year?
Yeah, I think even from the end of last year to where I think, especially in the bowl game, he had probably to that point his best game in his career. And I think that we can both agree that I think this year we've kind of seen a steady uptick.
Yeah.
And while he's left opportunities out on the field, especially with the deep ball, which I think will come with time and comfortability, and I think a lot of it is
we got one last game. We got one.
We did to start the game, which I think set the tempo or the vibe for that game a little bit.
We got an early start, a fast start offensively.
Exactly. And I think if he missed on that pass, I wonder what that game could have been like. But I think overall with Reed, you continue to see growth. And while it may not be as rapid as some people would hope for, it's very realistic. And you continue to see him make better and better plays. I think the pass to Jamarian Morrow in the Florida game, where he steps up in the pocket, in a defender's face, and is able to deliver that and get a touchdown there. I think that you just continue to see him grow, especially with his pocket presence and his comfort in the pocket. I think that you're continuing to see him go where you want him to be.
Yeah, I really like how you say it's been a realistic growth because I think when you're a fan and you get caught up watching the game, I do. This is how I watch games. It's like, is this the game Reed breaks out? Is this the game Reed hits 3 deep balls and he goes for 400 yards passing? Because we got teased with the numbers against Notre Dame. That was a huge explosion, and we're like, oh, when's it all going to come together?
Yeah.
No, that's not usually how it works. It's usually week on week, especially in this conference where there's just a really strong middle tier of teams, and it hasn't been an explosion. But for instance, I think in the Mississippi State game, early in the game, we saw him maybe miss some of the easy ones and opt to go for some of the hard ones. While he wasn't perfect versus Florida, we had 2 receptions to 3 different tight ends. Those are the shorter routes. Those are the ones that are gimmies. Those are the ones that are there where Reed is stepping up and getting the ball out to the, players' hands. And maybe it's not the flashy play. It's not the big play we're all hoping for, but that is progression. That is some of the stuff we're seeing from Marcel Reed. And I love how you said he stepped up, hit Morrow in that, corner route that was, it was like a scissors with KC, because there were other options there, but Reed saw how that play was going to develop and he stepped up and hit it. On that deep ball, he also stepped up into the pocket, hit it. He got the timing on that pass correct. It is something we hadn't seen all year. Those are progressions. Those are things we're seeing from Reed. And to your other point about having, Le'Veon out for a while, you might see him get his legs going more, and maybe that gets him into more of a rhythm. Maybe that's good for him. But I think we're in a good place with the quarterback. I think there are players around him that are just going to help him and bring him up. I think these receivers are encouraging him. I think he has a good relationship with the rest of his team from what we hear and what we see. And I just really love Reed as a leader. And I sometimes come off as critical about Reed, but that's just because we really like the guy and we really want the best for him. And, that'll be the best for A&M. And I think he's capable. I think he's a very coachable kid. And I really like what we're getting. But kind of getting back into the overarching thing here, I mean, we got a pretty big road stretch coming up, man. I said that this 3-game homestand going into the year was season defining in that you couldn't really hit the upside of the year, I don't think, if you lost those games. So even losing one would really hurt your chances. Those were ones that you felt like you should have had. They were winnable. They were at home, and you got them. But this upcoming road stand is you've earned the right to go out and make these games count for a lot. It's Arkansas, it's LSU, it's Missouri. Arkansas, pretty uneven team. Offense is good. Defense, up and down, not good. Whatever you want to call it, coaching change. I mean, early thoughts on Arkansas. I haven't done my research into them just yet, but what is your early feel of this Arkansas game, this first time going on the road? How much of this game do you think can translate to the road? And what do you think the challenges that Arkansas could present this team are?
Yeah, I think, again, when we talk about the defense, it's that and it's very similar to Marcel Reed, where there's been growth week to week to week. This will be a really big test for them. And as you said, I think that this home stretch that they just came off of was huge because they're about to go on a 3-game road trip where you probably cannot lose more than 1 game in to really allow yourself to have that slack. Because it's not to say that the rest of the schedule after that is easy, so to speak. You have South Carolina and Texas. But there's also potential here for Arkansas to have a big game. And again, I'm not going to say that I've watched every Arkansas game this year because if I did, I would have been bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
But the offense for Arkansas can beat anybody.
Yeah.
And a good day or a few mistakes from a Marcel Reed can win them that game in a hostile environment. The offense, and especially led by Bobby Petrino, who is going to take this game personal. There's going to be emotions behind this game for him. And even probably for Taylon Green, who hasn't played his best football against Texas A&M. That's a quarterback who can beat you on any given Saturday. Probably got lucky that it's not a night game. But I think you have to take Arkansas serious because they have some players offensively especially that can make you pay. I think this would be a true test for the A&M defense. And that's not to say Florida wasn't or Mississippi State wasn't. But I think Arkansas is a different monster in the fact that they have a really good play caller. I think offensively they're a really well-coached team. They have good play calls. But you cannot get caught behind in Fayetteville or else you will be in for a long game.
Absolutely. It's an offense that can get anybody. I mean, it's an offense that could potentially outpace you even against a good defense if you're not having your good offensive game. And their defense should have plays to be had against. So it's on A&M, it's on Reed, it's on Klein, life without Le'Veon Moss, to draw this up and just play a consistent, clean football game, play within yourself, take it on the road, let this defense be great. And I just think points will be scored in this game. I just think Arkansas can do it probably against anybody. That's the kind of quarterback that can just, take a game over by himself. He's made mistakes. We know the Taylon Green experience, but he's also had really, really good moments. So it's a really exciting test. And then just kind of overall for this closing stretch of the year, we're halfway through. I mean, what's the ceiling to this team? And is there a ceiling to this team? Can this team be as good as they want to be? I feel like they have a path ahead of them.
Yeah, I think it starts here in Fayetteville. You have to go and get a win, get out of that game healthy. As bad as LSU's been offensively, they're still a good team with plenty of talent, especially on the offensive side of things. Yeah. I think Nussmeier is probably not fully healthy. We'll see where he's at when A&M plays him. They have a test this week, of course. But I think you need to get out of Fayetteville 7-0 And you've at least got to win one of those games at Missouri, at LSU, because neither one of them are going to be easy.
Yep.
They're both going to be battles. Two really good teams, well-coached teams. And even looking at Missouri, that's a team that's also going to test the defense. Like, this is going to be a stretch where the defense really needs to kind of put their foot down and take control of a game and win it for the Aggies, because we haven't really seen a game this year, in my opinion, to where A&M's offense just cannot get going all game long. They adjust in the second half or whatever it may be. Defense needs to go and win them a game here. I think when you look to the stretch, I think one thing that I would want to look for, if you want to get to where you're at, if you want to come out of that stretch 9-0, you got to create more turnovers. And that's not me saying that the defense isn't doing enough, because we both know that's the truth.
Yeah.
But I think that the defense needs to take advantage. They need to put pressure on the other team early so that the offense can get that time on the road, because we haven't, outside of Notre Dame, they haven't been tested on the road yet. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a true definer for this road trip.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I said that if the defense could stamp in this homestand with a strong game against that Florida team that's coming off of a game where they feel really good about themselves, I will believe that they're capable of doing that for every other game on this season. Now, they just have to go do it, right? We know what they're able to do. They have the road test. They're out of their comfort zone. They've been home for 4 weeks now, including that bye. Now it's time to take it on the road. All right, Jaxson, I'll leave you with this last question. Might catch you off guard with this one. But on your wish list here, we're halfway through. What is one next step you want this team to take? If you could say you want to add this element to the team, you want to see this area improve going forward that would help this team the most, aside from turnovers, you just touched on that one, forcing turnovers, what else might that be?
Man, I think I'd probably have to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, and I think the receiving core has done everything you want and more. I think I just want one more target to emerge, and I think that they have the talent and the scheme to do so. I think whether it be Nyblack or Bussy or Ashton Bethel-Roman, one of those guys I think really need to take over a game, and that's not to say they're going to have 150 yards, but make a play that changes the game. Because I think you haven't seen that. You've seen really good things from all three of those guys, and maybe it can be a Jamarian Morrow.
Yeah.
But if you can get one more guy offensively that is just a safety net for Marcel Reed, a guy he's comfortable with, a guy that can make plays out of nothing, and that's a lot to ask out of somebody. But if you can do that, I think A&M can win any of these games with just their offense, because it's been that good. But I think that you need to have one more guy emerge, especially alongside this defense. Just give them time, have them on the sideline. We saw in the second half for A&M against Florida. Keep them on the sideline, and we'll go win these games through long drives where guys just make plays where they need to make them.
Yeah, I love that one. I'll give you mine. Since you covered that one, that's a pretty good one that I might have said. But I'm going to single out a player here. I'm going to go with Rueben Owens, because we just saw Rueben have an absolute career game against Mississippi State. Decent defense. That's a quality defense. Maybe not the highest talent level, but a team that's playing really hard and getting a lot out of their players. But what we saw from Rueben in that game was patience. We saw him play with pace, picking up something that Le'Veon Moss picked up last year, maybe from Trooper Taylor, maybe from this new coaching staff. That was really good to see, and we saw it in a big way from Rueben en route to that 140-plus yard game. Versus Florida, I think he got a little bit sped up. I think he was kind of going a little bit balls to the wall, just kind of running right to one gap, not remaining flexible, not kind of flowing as well as he was the game before. I know Rueben is capable. And I know if Rueben is in a situation where he can make one cut and go, that's when he's the best. That's when he's at his best. And this team knows that. You can look at the play they drew up for him at the goal line when Le'Veon Moss was down at the end of that 8-minute drive. They weren't going to hammer him down the middle. They know that's not what he wants to do. They pitched him the ball. They gave him blockers on one side, and they let him go and make a cut or just bounce it out to that pylon and make a play. This team knows what they have in Rueben Owens. I expect a lot out of Rueben because we've seen it from him, and I just really like the kid. I think my wish list for this team will be to get the best play you can from Rueben Owens, because I think that's a kid that's fully capable of it. But all right, Jaxson, this was fun, man. Just kind of talking about the year. It's been a great half of a year. Hopefully one day down the road we'll be talking about a great second half of the year. But tell everybody else one more time where they can find you, just so they catch you on the way out, so they know where to go catch up with your stuff.
Yeah, we're on Twitter, Instagram, all the socials, just covering Aggie football. But yeah, it was awesome being here. Of course, Drew does a good job, and I'm always here and love being here with you guys.
Thanks so much, man. All right, guys. I'll see you soon in the Arkansas preview. Y'all have a good one. Gig 'em.